So I checked my sources for cruise news today, and I couldn't believe all of the crime-related stories that are coming out right now from the world of cruising. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and there's one story that I really debated about whether I wanted to include or not because it's pretty horrible. It's not the kind of story that I usually do on this channel, but I finally decided that maybe talking about it would serve as a cautionary tale. I'm Jeff, by the way. Thanks for watching Backroads Tourist. I've got 5 cruising-related crime stories for you today, but I want to say that I don't think the cruise lines are to blame for any of these. I'm not holding them responsible, and I don't think that you should either. You may remember that almost exactly a year ago, April 2nd, 2024, 69 Bolivian passengers on the MSC Harmonia were detained in Barcelona when it was discovered that they didn't have valid visas. Actually, the entire ship and 1,500 passengers were detained for 2 days in Barcelona while everything got sorted out. The 69 passengers with invalid visas were eventually flown back to Bolivia, except for a few who had some family connections in Catalonia. Well, a year later, there's more to tell about this story. On Monday, 5 people were arrested in Bolivia in connection with this incident. All 5 are allegedly connected with local travel agencies, and it appears as though they tricked passengers into obtaining invalid visas. That's right, it was a scam. The arrest came as a joint investigation conducted by the Spanish National Police, Ameripol, Interpol, and Bolivian law enforcement. Specific charges have not been announced yet, and the investigation will continue. The U.S. Department of State has updated their travel advisory for Trinidad and Tobago. They're now at a level 3, which is a reconsider travel level. Trinidad and Tobago is now under the elevated advisory because of crime as well as the possibility of terrorist acts or kidnapping. Gang activity, assault, robbery, drug trafficking, and other serious crimes are on the rise there. Several cruise ships are still scheduled to visit Trinidad and Tobago next month, and at this time, no cruise lines have made any changes in their itineraries, but I'm sure they're going to be watching the situation and take appropriate actions if need be. The U.S. Department of State also recently updated Turks and Caicos to a level 2, which means that you should exercise increased caution. But of course, we all know that crime can happen anywhere, and you should always take precautions no matter where you are. I have a few more crime-related cruise news stories coming up, so stick with me. And by the way, if you give this video a like, it doesn't mean that you're approving of crime. It just means that you appreciate the effort it took to put this whole thing together and bring it to you. So I would certainly appreciate it if you would click that thumbs up icon down there. And it would be awesome if you would also join the Backroads Tourist family by subscribing to the channel. That way you won't miss out on any of the videos I put up. I'd love to have you come along with this, so subscribe today. Speaking of Turks and Caicos, I did a story last year on how a passenger on a Royal Caribbean ship was arrested for having bullets in his bag when he went ashore. He said that he had forgotten about them when he used the bag for a hunting trip earlier. Turks and Caicos detained him for 5 weeks, and he had to pay a $9,000 fine. Well, recently on the Carnival Breeze, a passenger was told that her bag was being held for inspection, and then she was invited to come on down to the security office. She had left a dive knife in a zippered pocket in her luggage that had raised some concern. She said that she had previously been on a trip to Cancun where she did some diving, and the knife accidentally got left in the pocket in the bag. Well, the story doesn't say what the outcome was, but I think it's safe to assume that security held on to the knife and the woman was allowed to enjoy the rest of her cruise. You may know that cruise lines have a long list of things that cannot be brought on board, and anything that could even remotely be considered a weapon is probably on that list. If you look at a list of banned items, you're going to be amazed at what's included. Things like throwing stars, swords, and catapults are some of the more unusual things. Now, there was also an incident recently where a child's toy gun was confiscated and held by security. Cruise ship security doesn't fool around when it comes to this kind of stuff. For those of you who are new to the Backroads Tourist channel, you may not know that I was actually busted once for trying to bring a weapon on board. Actually, I stand corrected. That's incorrect. I was busted twice. When my wife and I cruised from Sydney to Perth, I made it my goal to pick up a boomerang from every port we stopped in. Now, we were allowed to bring the boomerangs back to our cabin almost every time, but there were 2 times when security confiscated the boomerangs and told us we could pick them up at the end of the cruise. Now, I don't know if it was just different security people checking the bags or what, but sometimes they regarded the boomerangs as weapons and other times they didn't. Passengers on the Queen Anne recently received a warning from the captain while they were sailing in the Sulu Sea near the Philippines. They were told they were in an area where there had been some pirate activity, and they were not allowed to be on the external promenade deck from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. while they were in that area. Also, external lights on the ship were going to be dimmed, and guests were told to keep stateroom curtains closed and to dim or turn off cabin lights. Fortunately, no incidents were reported as the Queen Anne sailed from Darwin to Manila as part of her 111-night world cruise. I've debated about whether or not I should do this next story. It's pretty disgusting and not the type of story I normally do on this channel, but I think it's important that this kind of story be told, and I'll get into that after I tell you the story. I'm not going to get into the details, mainly because I really don't want to. 2 men in their mid-30s molested a 14-year-old boy in a sauna. This happened on the Royal Caribbean Independence of the Seas last week. One of the men is HIV positive. Both men were arrested last Friday at Port Miami and are facing several charges. I've talked about this before, but it's good to bring this up every now and then. When we're on vacation, especially a cruise, it's easy to fall into the mindset that we're in a protective bubble. All of our needs are being met. Our beds are being made for us every day, we're served amazing food, and we're pampered during the entire cruise. When you're living in an environment like that, you can forget that the real world is still out there. Accidents can happen, you can still get sick, and there are still evil people. And some of them may be your fellow cruisers. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger. I'm just trying to deliver a reality check. Enjoy your cruise, enjoy your vacation, but don't become too complacent or too trusting. Remember, the real world is still out there. And on that note, I want to thank you very much for watching today. I'm going to leave you with a daily dose of Daisy. Here are a couple of pictures of our little girl back from a few years ago. Hey, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm Jeff, and I hope to see you on a future cruise.